What I think of with Miracle on Ice, and it's really an ego thing, is me having to go to the managing editor at the New York Times and telling him, you know, you're not sending me to the Olympics, and I think that the U.S. hockey team has a heck of a chance. And he looked at me and he said, well, you know, he says, we're in a budget constraint now. And I said, yeah, but I said that this could be a big deal. So they relented. It was going to be my first Olympics as well, so hell, I was excited. I guess we drove to Lake Placid, and once there I was stranded because you couldn't get a car. So I was sort of trapped in this motel that had a moose head on the outside of it. And I had a room with Neil Amder. He was sort of an Olympic expert. Neil became the sports editor. And it was a tiny, cramped room. I went to all the games and all the United States games, and there wasn't really much buzz about it, other than the fact that it was just an interesting collection of amateurs, none of whom had ever made any impact on the United States. And the New York Times had always been partial to hockey because hockey has a very high demographics. In the Northeast, all the Ivy League teams played hockey. The arena was a really crummy place. It was old. They didn't have air conditioning, so the smoke rose to the top. In fact, I had no room for my computer in the press box. I had to have my old Olivetti portable typewriter in the press box, and a fellow named Gordon White, who was one of our reporters, was dispatched to the basement where he had room to have the computer. We had to have our press conferences across the street in a high school auditorium. You couldn't, there was just no room. I just remember that it just was no fun being there. However, one of the things about hockey that makes it fun, when guys skate or when they slide or when they turn, when they hit each other, you would hear that noise. I said to myself, here I am, New York Times, greatest newspaper in the world, and I'm stuck in this place like this, uncomfortable writing, you know, and all. I really felt that it should have been more of a classy venue for me. Well, now the game ends, and I'm one of 6,000 people that knows the U.S. won because this game was on a Friday afternoon. ABC TV didn't want to televise it live. They didn't think much of it, or they didn't think Americans would be interested in it. And so I've got to now get my story into the New York Times, except that I'm upstairs and the computer is downstairs. Now I've got to write the biggest story of my life. I didn't realize it at the time that it was the biggest story of my life, but it turned out to be the biggest story of my life. And I'm sitting up there typing away, and now I got to get my story. And here's what I did. I told Dave Anderson, a Pulitzer Prize winning columnist, Dave, you go on a balcony one level below. I'm going to type my story. Then I'm going to roll it up into a ball. I'm going to throw it to you, and you are going to go down to the basement where the computer is and where fella is typing my story. He's going to retype it and send the story, and that's exactly what happened. Dave catches it in a fly, and he runs down to the basement, gives it to the guy down below, and runs back up, and by then I'm page 2. And that's how I sent the most famous story that I've ever written into the New York Times, made page 1. The only sports story I ever wrote that was what we call above the fold in the New York Times.